Hi guys, Josh Olfert back with another video, and today I want to discuss with you guys why I made the decision not to go to university. Now, I've been known for having made some sweeping generalizations as a young person on social media, talking about how I thought school was evil and how it was a waste of time and all these different things, but my philosophy has evolved. I likely said all of those things because I chose not to, and I was probably insecure, and I was trying to make statements to make myself feel better. But all of that being said, what we can probably agree on is that for our grandparents and for our parents, going to university was essentially the ticket. So now in 2020, we have way more options than we've ever had for pursuing whatever career it might be that we want. I believe starting a business or being an entrepreneur is easier than it's ever been. I believe that trying to become a creator on the internet or find a niche on the internet is easier than it's ever been. But back 40 or 50 years ago, with our parents or our grandparents, the real ticket to actually having a career success or to actually getting started was going to university. It was cheap. It was, relatively simple. The steps were pretty easy. You went and got your 4 or 5 year degree and you were guaranteed a good job with a pension and benefits and a growing economy where your wages could increase over time and all that great stuff. But now there's a case to be made that maybe that's not really how the world is anymore. And obviously that might be a bit of a take, that might be a controversial opinion, but that's kind of what I want to talk about. Now, for me, I was in a pretty special position. I was very lucky, I was very fortunate. Throughout high school, I was actually a pretty good volleyball player. I had the right coaches, I had, the right team, and everybody around me, all of my friends and teammates who I played high school with and played club sports with, actually almost every single one of them ended up getting an offer to play college or university volleyball and travel the country and get their education paid for. And I was in the same boat. I had won tons of different provincial championships and national championships with this team. And every single person had always been asking me, Josh, where are you going? What school are you thinking of? I had been doing campus visits over the country, seeing which school was it that I wanted to go to play sports. And at the end of the day, even though I was in this spot where maybe all of my tuition and my education would be paid for, even then I still decided not to go, which might seem crazy, might seem bonkers, but I want to talk a little bit more about why I made that decision, even though the investment would have been $0. I think there's really two ways I can break this down. Firstly, I want to talk about, where my head was at when I was 18 years old with this opportunity in front of me and still deciding not to go. But over time, I've actually completely changed a lot of my opinions about university and whether you should go or not. And now I have a much different reason. I don't regret not going. I don't think there's actually anything that I couldn't do in my life right now or in my career that I could have done had I gone. So I'm not regretful whatsoever, but my ideas, my beliefs about university have certainly changed. So we'll talk about that as well. But the reason I didn't go and where my head was at when I was 18 is there's a few different things going on. First of all, I sucked at school. I was so bad and I hated it. I hated going every day. I'd go to school and I would see my friends. That would amp me up. I would go to sports practices. I would compete. Loved that. The social aspects of school were fantastic. I was like the student body president of my high school, and I loved all these different aspects of the culture, but going to class sucked the energy out of me. I hated it. I mean, many of you may feel this way. For me, I was sitting in physics class, which I pretty much failed. I think I failed. I was sitting in these math classes, these, geography classes, and I would think, when is this class over? And I would, try to pass the time in my head. I'd play different games, and I would remember thinking, okay, 20 minutes until class is done. I just gotta wait 20 minutes. So I would just get in the zone, I would focus, and then boom, it's like, okay, it's gotta be close to 20 minutes. And I would look at the clock and it had been 3 minutes. I hated going to class so much that the time was just extrapolated. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to do 5 more years of that. Yeah, no thank you whatsoever. I did not wanna be in that position. I wasn't, because I wasn't interested, I wasn't good. And here's something interesting. I passed math with like a 50. I passed all these different sciences courses just barely. But I had a 95 in economics. The things that I'm interested in, I was actually really good at, but there was just so few and far between. And I knew that even though I could choose some sort of major in university or I could specialize in something, I knew there were 2 or 3 years worth of work that I just was not gonna do well in. Now, I knew for a fact at that age that if I went into the school system, I went into the university system, somebody else other than me was gonna dictate my success. And I knew that if that was gonna be in the classroom, the institution, the academy of the university was gonna dictate whether or not I was a good student or whether I was gonna be successful. That wasn't gonna work for me because I already knew in my mind they would, give me a bad grade. They'd give me a D- on what I was as a student. So that obviously wasn't a great start, but I think the biggest impact or the biggest reason I didn't go was, they talk about this cliche, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And at this time in my life, I was getting really obsessive and really excited about entrepreneurship and investing and all these things that I'm doing today. And I had a group of friends who were really ambitious, really sharp, had all started their own businesses and had been doing their own ventures with success even, and they were all kind of hell-bent on skipping school. They were hell-bent on, let's not do the university thing, and maybe if we invest in ourselves and invest in our own business or our venture over the next 3 or 4 years, we actually might come out on par or even ahead without having to have paid or gone to school, which was, like I said, extremely boring. Now, for me, as an investor and someone who's, I think finance first a lot of the time, I understood the laws of compounding. I understood the laws of compound interest. If I get an extra 5 years, and this isn't just about getting an 8% return and getting an extra 5 years. I mean, if I can go out into the world for 5 years and I can work and I can find a job or some sort of role in a business that accelerates my skills, I can make money and I can invest that. So I can go out and buy rental properties, I can go out and start investing, I can save up capital for a future business. And that way, when maybe, I'm 18, I go through 5 years of work, when I'm 23, 24, and my friends are graduating, maybe I have the beginnings of an investment portfolio or the beginnings of a business that can carry me on through my career. And so those were the major things. I was surrounded with a group of people that didn't want to go. To be honest, I wasn't good in the system and I didn't want the system to dictate my success. 3, I just thought that I could get a head start financially. I thought I could get a head start on my compounding. And the last reason I didn't go was because I knew this. I knew this at 18, which is kind of mind-blowing that I even thought this way, but I knew that regardless if you go to university or not, when you come out, let's say you go to university, when you come out of university, you still have to sell yourself. You still have to go out into the world, put your ideas out there, try to get hired. You still have to, that like exactly what I said, you have to sell yourself to potential employers or businesses. So for me, it was the idea of, okay, we have a battle here. Going to university gets me a degree and gets me a credential because honestly, a little tangent here, that's what university is for. If university was for learning, you wouldn't go, you wouldn't spend $20,000, you wouldn't spend $25,000, you would go do some sort of course or you would actually learn in the field. The reason you go to university is to get the credential. So back to the main point. Get the credential and use that to sell myself to potential employers or businesses when I'm 23, 24, or I could go out in the world, get a role in an actual business, get work experience, get sales experience, spend my time reading, spend my time taking money from my job and investing. And maybe 4 or 5 years out, when I would have been graduating university, now I have a way bigger resume to sell myself with than just the credential or the piece of paper. So maybe I can build a portfolio of things that I've done rather than just having the piece of paper that says I graduated. So these are the kinds of things I was weighing. Those were the main reasons I decided not to go in that moment. And this wasn't easy. I mean, like we talk about this, people talk to me all the time, like, didn't your friends think you were kind of crazy? Like, didn't your parents lose it? Didn't your, all your peers? Yeah, totally. Like the high school I went to bragged nonstop about their university participation rate. X%, 98% of grade 12s go on to university. That was their bragging point. And when they heard that their student body president wasn't going to university, it was kind of like a shock to them. Parents, my mom freaked out. My dad was surprisingly okay with it. I think he had faith in me. My mom freaked out. She Didn't talk to me for a few days. Wasn't really great, but my friends, same thing. They thought, wow, that's really weird. Like, Josh was this ambitious guy. He had all these plans. He was starting businesses, investing, and now he's just not going to school. So maybe he gave up. Little did they know there was a plan in the works. There's this strange assumption out there that if you are ambitious and you want to do something with your life, university is like the prerequisite to doing that. And honestly, like, that's fair enough, because you don't have something so ingrained in your culture as a tradition if it didn't serve some master fantastic purpose earlier in history. All I'm trying to say is that, evolution is a very conservative force as, the world moves forward and we move away from traditional academia and traditional university into, the digital realm and all those sorts of things. It's not gonna be a quick leap. It's gonna be a very small, incremental iteration of people kind of losing faith in traditional education and doing things, becoming autodidacts or becoming somebody who educates themselves online. Hey guys, future Josh here. I'm just realizing that probably made no sense. All I really meant by using autodidact and all these words was saying that now it's becoming more normal for people to educate themselves online and self-educate and, find a way into the workforce rather than just going the traditional way of doing schooling and getting the credential. So fast forward 7 years, now I'm 24, didn't go to university, laid that out for you. But, things are okay, right? Like, it actually kind of worked out. We've got an investment management firm that I love running day to day. I've got rental properties, different types of investments, all these sorts of things. But my ideas around university have changed immensely because I was this kid who took all these ideas. University's useless, it's worthless, what a horrible investment, all this stuff. And I'm throwing it up on Facebook like this sweeping generalization. And people would get so mad. People would get really frustrated. And you know what? Here's a funny thing about when somebody gets really mad about something you say, it's probably because deep down they know some part of it is true. For instance, if someone is always kind of embellishing or lying or, always extrapolating or exaggerating, and you call them a liar, nothing could bother them more because deep down they know, they're calling out something about me that's true. Anyways, I think that I hit a nerve with certain people because certain people knew they were in university and knew that maybe this wasn't the best use of their time. It wasn't something they should be doing. And, I even spoke with a client and a close friend a couple days ago, and he said, people always ask me, what would I have done differently if I were to restart university and do it all again? And he chuckles and he says, he's like, man, I wouldn't go. So I think there is a good argument to be made for, both sides. But what do I believe now? How did my beliefs change? Well, I think that to say that university is a waste of money or a bad investment just is way too broad. Everything is so situational. For an immigrant coming over from a different part of the world, getting your feet on the ground in North America, what better way to do that than to go to university or to get educated and, learn the ways of a different culture and all sorts of things like that. And especially for people whose jobs actually require the credential. We live in a system where credentials provide the stepping stones to get in certain careers. Medicine, law, there's all sorts of careers out there that literally require this stuff. So I want to just start by saying, I don't necessarily believe this is the case for everybody. There are certain situations where you just have to go to university, whether you like to or not. Now, I will debate whether, most lawyers or most doctors want to become lawyers or doctors. I'm not sure if, tons of people want to become accountants, but people become accountants anyways. But anyways, all that being said, I think that for me, what I see about the universities now that bothers me is, first of all, academic inflation, right? 50, 60 years ago, when our grandparents and our parents went to school, going to university was something that was probably less common. Now, pretty much everybody who wants to build a career and can afford it goes to university. So what that means is, what once required a bachelor's degree now requires a master's degree. And what once required a master's degree now requires a PhD. And as more and more people get their credential, get their piece of paper, the value deteriorates. More people have it, which means there's more supply. The demand is the same. We're gonna see the value of university start to depreciate. Next, another huge thing is that we don't even know what the future problems of our world are going to be. back 50 years ago, things were progressing, but now we have the internet, we have technology, we have all these different things. We have AI and machine learning and all of these different things where we don't even know where they might go. And university is trying to help us solve problems that we don't even know exist yet. So it's interesting to see things like a Google University. I read about this a couple days ago. Google is coming out with their own low-cost university that will help people across America. It doesn't matter what income you earn, doesn't matter where you went to high school. If you can afford a $300 or a $500 program, they are going to give you the education you need to work at a tech firm like Google. And lastly, for me, what I've seen over the course of, my friends and my peers and everybody going to university, in my mind, a great university, what it should do is it should produce individuals. It should produce people that come out believing different things. When universities were started, they were started to find truth. You would go there and they would shred everything you believed and they would help you try to rebuild a framework for what the world is and what truth is. But now what I'm noticing is most people graduate university having the exact same beliefs. They come out and they believe a certain way about politics and they believe a certain way about economics. So my primary concern there is, are you being educated or are you being indoctrinated? And that's a wild take. I understand that could seem controversial, but for me, it seems pretty clear to me that a lot of people who come out of university come out as a cookie cutter in the same way they think about things. So you might be asking, okay, let's say I decide not to go to university. Let's say I decide not to make that decision. What do I do? And that's a fantastic question, because without that stepping stone, without that framework, there's a big question mark. You have infinite options. What is it that you should do? And I don't necessarily know what you should do, but I know what worked for me and worked for a lot of people around me. My story went like this. I didn't go to university, but I decided I'm gonna learn every single thing I can learn and read every book I can read on one particular niche, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different ways to say that word. One particular thing. For me, it was investing in finance. Let's read every book and learn everything. And then what I would do is I would put myself out there. I would, put together a blog, or I'd put together a YouTube channel. Here we are again. I would put together some sort of way to get my ideas out into the world on the internet. Was usually the easiest. So I'd read everything, I'd learn everything, I'd put it out there. And by doing that, I attracted attention. People had their eyes on me. I was featured in things like, the local newspapers and national newspapers for my writing on certain topics. And then using that, I literally did something very simple. I found 10 to 20 people in the industry I wanted to be in. And I sent them a cold email. This is easy as anything. You can send them an email, send them a phone call and say, hey, I'm really passionate about this. I know X, Y, and Z. I've been featured in A, B, and C, and I've done these certain things that show that I'm really interested in this as a career path, whatever it is, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, whether it's, you name it, right? And you reach out to 20 people and ask them, hey, can I meet up with you? Can I pick your brain? Can I take you for lunch? Whatever it is. Start networking, start trying to create connections with people who are doing what you want to do. And then what you do is you just repeat that process. And over time, what you'll find is that 4 or 5 of those 20 people you reach out to will actually be generous enough to say yes. And when you meet them, they will see the fire that you have and the passion that you have for your thing, and they will be more than willing to keep their eye out for opportunities for you. And this is completely counter to the stories you're told. You're told that, unless you have a credential, unless you have this accolade or that, no one will give you the time of day. That's not true. In my experience, you develop your competence, you show that you're excited, and people are trying to open doors for you. That's what I found. And that's really the process. It's putting yourself out there, learn everything you can, and work in the meantime, right? The cool thing about not going to university is you have 4 or 5 years to earn income, to start investing, to build a base for yourself so that you're not strapped for the rest of your 30s and 40s. So that's the rubric I would create. I would say go out and learn, meet people, network, and see what opportunities come of that, and then just repeat until you find yourself on a path that is a career. That's literally what I did. And you know what, I would say that it worked out really great, and I developed a lot of really cool relationships. And what you find, you could think, if I don't go to university, I might not get those opportunities. And what I'm finding now is that there are so many opportunities that it's exhausting, right? Opportunities are exhausting because when someone gives you an opportunity, hey, I want you to come partner here, or be a part of this, or I want you to be on the board of that, or I want you to do, it takes up so much mental energy. And what you'll find by putting yourself out there and networking is that you have so many opportunities that it actually becomes tiring. Now that's a good problem, considering we started from the basis that, you needed a degree to get opportunities. My main takeaway here is that regardless if you're going to school or not, you're going to have to sell yourself when you get out. When you come to that age of 25 or 26 or whatever it might be, you still have to go out and get what you want. You still have to go out and take it. You have to go out and make opportunities for yourself. Now there's this whole thing about entitlement. You don't want to come out of university feeling like you're entitled to a job or something like that. You want to come out knowing, okay, now is go time. Now I actually have to find something. I have to find an opportunity and create it for myself. At the end of the day, all I'm really wanting and all I'm really getting at in my discussions about education is I want people to be honest. I want them to be honest about whether or not they actually want to do a certain career. And I want them to be honest with whether or not they need to go to school to do that, or if there's some better way. So anyways, thank you so much guys for watching this. I'm so grateful for all the support thus far. If you really like these videos and you enjoy them, please hit that subscribe button, like button, and turn on post notifications for more videos just like this one every single week. Until next time.